Hey guys, welcome back to This Week on Making Room. We are so excited that you're here, and I'm even more excited for this week's episode. You guys know that little Wesley just turned 1, and we are thick in the midst of being new parents and learning about the whole world of kids and everything that surrounds it, all the developmental stages, all the toys, and of course, all the books that come with it. And we are so excited to talk about a new release that all of you are going to be thrilled to hear about with our new friend and debut children's book author, Paige Murray. If you do not know about Paige Murray, here is a little bit more about her, and you are sure to love her as much as we do. Western influencer and debut author Paige Murray makes her home outside of Stephenville, Texas, along with her husband and 9-time world champion rodeo cowboy Ty Murray, their daughter Oakley, and her stepson Case. Their ranch is filled with numerous animals they manage. This is so amazing to me. 500 cows, 6 horses, 1 mini horse, 3 donkeys, 3 dogs, 5 cats, 11 chickens, 2 peafowl, 3 guinea birds, 2 rabbits. This is so fun. 2 turkeys, a hamster, and a pet rat. Can't forget the pet rat. Paige is a graduate of Clemson University with a degree in animal science, a former broadcast journalist, and rodeo reporter. More information can be found along with her new books on bootsandbiscuits.com. Guys, this conversation is going to be so fun for this Connecticut girl who has never seen a proper farm or rodeo. And I'm sure you guys will love hearing about it more too. But quick, a note from our sponsor. If you guys are thick in the, oh my goodness, the crazy of back to school, holiday prep, everything that this time of year brings, we know it is equally fun and chaotic. Feast and Fiddle wants to come alongside you with food that you feel good serving your family. You could feel like you have a personal chef at a fraction of the cost with food delivered straight to your door. No ripping packages open, no cooking or anything. It comes to you ready to eat, and you could feel good about it, from your kids' lunches to snacks for you, dessert for the family, whatever you're looking for help with. Take off your first week with code GATHER at feastandfettle.com and head there for more. Well, without waiting any longer, let's dive into this week's conversation. Hi, I'm Katie, a hospitality educator and the host of Making Room by Gather podcast. I am set to see our communities get back to the table through hospitality, but it wasn't always this way. My husband and I moved to Thailand, and through it, I experienced some loneliness. And with it, I was given a choice: to sit back and accept it, or to do something about it. And for me, that meant 2 things: that I needed the healing to learn how to accept an invitation, and the confidence to know how to extend one. Through this process, I developed some of the richest and deepest relationships of my life. Through Making Room by Gather, you will hear conversations from myself and experts in the areas of food, design, and relationships. You see, there are countless things trying to keep us from the table. But can I tell you something? Take a seat, because you are ready. You are capable. You are a good host. Okay. Hi, Paige.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I was thinking as we're talking, I have actually never experienced true Southern hospitality. And as someone in the hospitality industry, everyone's like, you would love the South. And so I'm excited to hear from you. We're talking about your children's book, your debut book today. But if you want to throw in any hospitality as we're talking, I would love to kind of experience it through you in our conversation today.
Okay, yeah.
So, I want to start learning about your background a little bit. You and your family call a ranch in Texas home. And truly, as a girl from Connecticut, when we pass like a half an acre of a cornfield, that's a farm to us. And so, tell us, like, did you grow up on a ranch? Has it always been a part of your life? Let us know what you want us to know about your childhood.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. My literary agent, you would love her. Her name's Esther, and she's from Michigan. And I've introduced her to this whole world of ranching and animals, and took her to her first branding this year. So it's so fun to share this life with everyone. I'll show you. Let's see if I can turn this. We live on a 2,800 acre ranch in Stephenville, Texas. And there's our hamster cage, but you can kind of see out there across the ranch. That's our land as far as you can see. And I actually grew up in South Carolina, so a small town, but not not in the country on a ranch. And there's not ranches in South Carolina the way there are out here in the West. I think we just have too many pine trees. There's not enough open space. But my grandmother, she lived on like in an old Southern plantation home, and she had some acreage and had two horses that were her pets. And she introduced me to horses, and I just fell in love with them, from 5 years old on. And I started riding lessons and just loved it. And then my favorite book was Black Beauty, and my favorite movies, were like The Horse Whisperer and Charlotte's Web, which when you were reading out all my animals, it feels like I have my own Charlotte's Web. It's like, oh my gosh. And so I've just always loved animals. I've always romanticized the West and wanted to live on a ranch so I could have as many animals as I wanted to. And so when I went to Clemson and I majored in animal science, and I thought maybe I will be a veterinarian, because that was kind of my dream from kindergarten up. I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I went to school for animal science, and I got a concentration in equine business. So while I was there, and it sounds a little bit old fashioned, but my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and there were three of us girls, and I really valued that, and I attribute such a wonderful, happy childhood to her being home with us. And so that's how I was raised, and that's the model I had. And so I knew I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom one day. I've had children. I was getting ready to graduate, and I was like, oh my gosh, 4 more years of vet school, 2 years of residency. I was like, that's a lot of money and time invested, to then, if I have children, I want to stay home with them. So once I graduated, I started working as a vet tech part-time, just to get the hours to apply for vet school of experience if I decided that is what I wanted to do. But while, I came out and applied in Texas for a job as a horse show director for the San Antonio Livestock Show and Rodeo, and I didn't get that job. So went back to square one, working at the vet's office. And then I was doing some like promo modeling in college and after college with an agency in North Carolina. And I applied for the job as NASCAR's Miss Sprint Cup. And I got that job. I got to travel the country with the NASCAR circuit. And that was such an incredible opportunity. And I was exposed to broadcast journalism, and I fell in love with that. And so in 2014, Ride TV was a new equine horse television network, and they were hiring in Texas for like a host and a rodeo reporter. So I applied for the job, and I got it, and I moved to Texas. And so it was so cool how everything came full circle, and I got to combine my love of horses and animals in broadcast journalism. So I still got to be involved with this agricultural world, which I loved. And I met my husband shortly after I moved to Texas. We were at the National Finals Rodeo. Both of us were working. His name's Ty Murray, and he is a 9-time world champion cowboy. And he had a ranch here in Stephenville, Texas. So we've been inseparable ever since we met, and we got married about 2 years after we met. I moved to the ranch, and then I had my daughter in 2018.
Wow.
So it's just been such an incredible opportunity to really experience this ranch life, and like it's my dream come true.
Wow. You could see that shine as you're talking about it too. It's so sweet. And as you're saying all these things, even just the career paths, these are not careers that we hear in the Northeast, which is
Yeah.
interesting to me. And so it's like you forget how big the US is until you meet people from across the country. And so I love hearing all about this. And we're talking today a lot about dreams. And I love hearing you say it's a dream come true. And even just part of your story is encouraging people to dream bigger. Sky is the limit. That's what I'm going for. But I want to get a little bit more of a bigger picture of ranch life for the listeners, just to really just paint the picture for the rest of our conversation. I mean, truly, this is sad to say, but my only experience with ranches are from the movies, little clips that I see here and there. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of our listeners. So, what do you wish people really knew about it? I guess the
Yeah.
real life side of it.
Yeah, and it's like you said, when you are immersed with people who live similar lives to you around where you live, and the similar cultures, you forget that, wow, outside of this place that we live in, this culture, that people have such a different life experience. And so, most people here in Stephenville are cowboys. It's the cowboy capital of the world. Um, and so you forget that, wow, we actually live a really unique life, and it truly is like a it's a declining industry, the farming and ranch industry. And it used to be such a common way of life. Like, believe in 1930, there were like 6.8 million farms, and now they're 1.89 million. But it used to be such a common practice. Like, most of our ancestors probably farmed at some point, maybe ranched. Um, but most people do get their ideas about ranching from the movies. And I feel like now we have two different spectrums. So you have like the old romanticized version of the West, where it's vast and untamed, and where pioneers and cowboys battled against nature and forged a new way of life. And it really emphasized values such as like individualism, self-reliance, and ruggedness and adventure. And certainly there were those aspects of that life, but there were also a lot of hardships, unpredictable weather, and it really was a hard life. And then now you have like the Yellowstone side of ranching, which is very over dramatic and over the top. But the thing there, in Yellowstone, is that they love their land so much and they will do anything to keep it. And so I think that is one thing that is very common to ranchers and farmers all alike. It's so much more than a business and making a living. It really is about preserving a way of life and a heritage that our country was founded on. A lot of farms and ranches are family owned and operated, and they've been in the families for generations. And so we have a place in Crested Butte, Colorado, and our neighbors are ranchers, fifth generations up there in Colorado, in this booming, tourist ski town, where land and houses go for millions of dollars. And they're sitting on all this land and they're still ranching it. And they could sell it and, just make millions. And, you ask them, why do you stay in this business? He said, we're doing what we love. If we sold it, what will we do? Like, what else will we do? And so it's such a special way of life. And I think preserving those traditions are so special. And then I think something that maybe people don't understand is it is a hard way of life, and it's a hard way to make a living. It's hard to find quality land that's affordable. And then to be able to run enough cows, you have to have, so many acres, and all the farm equipment and ranch equipment that you have to purchase is expensive. It's like millions of dollars. And so it really is a hard industry to make a living in, but all businesses can be hard to make a living in. But the things that the ranch provide that have nothing to do with the financial gain it's just like it's priceless. You can't put a price tag on it. The adventure, being with our family every day, the land, being in touch with nature and the animals, and really like being close to our, it could be our food source, and just being in touch with that and raising our kids with those values. It's so easy to keep our kids away from the screens because we have so much to do here. It's like every day you can go explore somewhere new.
Wow.
And so I think being around with all those animals and the lessons that being raised on a ranch teaches is just something that's priceless. And it really is a special way of life.
Wow. I can almost feel the like decompressing and the rest of just like being in that atmosphere. It's not something that's like easily available to us up here. And I could see all of that. I definitely could see it. I'm so glad you painted that picture for us. Well, we are weeks away from the launch of your debut children's book, Rosie's Wild Ride Chasing Big Dreams. And the title drew me in. I definitely consider myself a big dreamer. My friends and family know that about me. But the more I learned about the messaging, I knew we had to talk about it more. I think I was thinking back to childhood, and I always could kind of hear what I would say like whispers of dreams in the back of my mind. But I always felt like I was surrounded by this messaging, also like the cultural messaging of playing it safe. And it wasn't until I was much older that I felt like the freedom to kind of explore those dreams, dabble with them, feel freedom in them. And that's when I went all in. And so I'm curious, what led you to write a book specifically about this? Because it's something that maybe as a culture we're talking more about.
Mhm.
There's more permission to do it, but it's still not quite the norm. So dive into that for us.
Yeah, so here is my children's book, Rosie's Wild Ride, Chasing Big Dreams, and it's based off of our real life Clydesdale horse, Rosie, and then that's my daughter, Oakley. And let's see, I'll show you. There's a picture of the real horse and Oakley in the back, but that's them right there.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so sweet to have in
so
there.
sweet, isn't that? I know. And so that was a major theme in this book. I think, Oakley, when I started writing this book and had this idea, she was 3.5. And it's just grown with her, the process of getting a book published. But we tell kids to dream big because we encourage them to believe within themselves that they have the capability to do anything they aspire to do. And dreaming big can drive direction, ignite desire, and shape behavior of the kids. It gives them something to aim at and accomplish that truly interests and inspires them. And so I think that is so important to build that confidence in kids and encourage them to think outside of the box, because dreams fill kids with hope. I feel like, it secures a child's focus on the higher visions of life and lets them think beyond their current reality. And so some kids may have a bad home life. They, just, you never know what a kid's going through. But I think if you can fill their brain with dreams and hopes, it really can set their path down a different their life on a different path that they might have otherwise, not thought about. And so we come from a really inspiring family. My husband's a 9-time world champion cowboy, and he still has the record for all around world championships on the rough stock end of the rodeo arena. So the rough stock events are bull riding, bareback bronc riding, and saddle bronc riding. And then your teamed events are like barrel racing and tie down roping and all that. So he still holds the record for that. But he said when he was little that his mom made him believe he could do anything. He said she just always encouraged him. And when she'd be counting down from 8 seconds, if he was about to buck off when he's little, she'd count faster. And so she just made him believe that he could be the world's greatest cowboy. And we have it laminated now, but it was a paper he did at school. And I think he was like maybe 8 years old, and it said my dream, what I want to be one day, or what do you want to do for a career one day? And he said, I want to be the world's greatest cowboy and break Larry Mahan's record. And he did it because he had that dream at such a young age, and he was trying to accomplish those goals and taking steps every day to do that. So I think that's so important. And then my great uncle, he was my grandfather's identical twin brother. He was the 10th and youngest man to walk on the moon. He was on Apollo 16. And so his name's Charlie Duke. And just having those inspirations and, that the dreams that they had and were able to accomplish, I just think filling your kid's head with these dreams and encouraging them and to have big dreams and chase them is such an important thing for little ones.
Yeah, it's so good. I love this conversation. I love that as a culture we're kind of going in this direction with a lot of freelancers and entrepreneurs and small businesses because I think a lot of us like you were saying, came from rough childhoods or limited resources or
Mhm.
family members that didn't get to pursue their dreams and unfortunately project that onto next generations. It's a reality but there's so much lost when we don't pursue that. And so I love that we're encouraging kids to dream big. And so, with that, what do you hope that parents or caregivers also glean from this book as they're reading it to their littles?
Yeah, so a big theme in this book, it came from a true experience on the ranch, and that's kind of where all my ideas for these books came from real happenings on the ranch. Like I'm a creative person, but I work best off of like a little bit of truth. I love like
Good.
movies based off of a true story and stuff like that. And just making up a story is hard for me. But so a big theme in this book is believing, like, what if I can? And so you'll see it all throughout the book. What if we can? What if I can?
Wow.
And so this happened. Oakley was 3.5, and we were down at the round pen where you train your horses. And she wanted to get on Rosie by herself. And Rosie's like really tall, really big. I said, do you think you can get on that big horse by yourself? And she said, what if I can? And so that night I was like, that is really cool that a 3.5-year-old, didn't say, what if I can't? Or what if, well, what if I can't do it? Like, it was such a cool quote, I guess, a mindset to think about. Instead of being filled with like doubt, she was filled with wonder and curiosity. And I felt like it was such a true testament to the human spirit before we become aware of the shame and embarrassment that comes with failing. And so it's like such a like an innocent child's, quote. But I was
Yeah.
like, what a great reminder for adults and people of all ages to believe in yourself. And it was so neat. She came home from kindergarten the other day and she said, Mom, we were we're learning about, I think she called it the gross mindset, but the growth mindset. And she said, it's where you like believe that you can instead of being like, oh, it's too hard. Oh, I can't do it. And having a fixed mindset. She said it was just like the Rosie book. I was like, that is so cool. Like, to encourage kids and adults to believe that you can, because
Mhm.
this book for me, if I had, gosh, if I'd been scared of, oh my gosh, what if I can't do this? What if it's not successful? What are people going to think if I try to write this? You really put yourself out there. But if you worry about the doubt, and you doubt yourself and worry about failing, you'll never get anything accomplished.
Yeah.
And so I think that was such an important theme in this book. And then something else I think is really cool in this book, while they're chasing their dreams, they fail 3 times. So our grouchy barn cat tells Rosie that she's too big and too slow to be a rodeo star, because Clydesdales are used for pulling wagons and cart. Most people know them from the Budweiser Clydesdales.
Yeah.
They're just beautiful, but they're always pulling something. And so she's dreaming of being a rodeo star, which is really not a place for a Clydesdale. And so Thumbs, our cat, taunts her, "You're too big and too slow. You'll never make it." So she gets these doubts in her head and she has to overcome them. But while they're chasing their dreams, they fail 3 times. They have to develop grit and resilience and determination to keep going even when they fail. And I think a big thing, like you were talking about when you were little, when things get hard, or you have like more realistic expectations, rather than dreaming big. And I think if you can combine the two, that's where like your real passion and talents are going to develop. So she was too big and too slow to do some of these events in the rodeo, but she keeps going and they keep trying, and then they figure out that their unique differences, her size, her strength, and her bravery, um, what those traits are going to be, what how they're going to come in handy and help her become a rodeo star. So in the book, there's like a runaway bull that escapes, and she's the only horse big, strong, and brave enough to hopefully go try to wrangle him up and bring him back to the pens. And so it really is a story about finding that your differences, what makes you different, is also what makes you special. And then I think for adults or children, if you can realize that, like, where your interest and your talents lie, where your strengths and your interests lie, that's where your true passion can develop. And so you may not be good at everything, but if you can figure out what you're good at, what traits you have, and then what interests you, I think that's how you can find your passion.
Wow. I love that you went we talk a lot about going first here at Making Room, like going first with initiating friendship, going first with initiating hospitality. And then once someone goes first, you kind of chart a new path. And I think dreaming is the same way. When people in culture or in our lives see that someone's dreaming big, it's
Mhm.
like, "Oh my gosh, wow, I could follow. I see that this is possible now. I see that it's not all fear. There's a little bit of safety, or there's, endless possibilities." I think it charts a new path. And so I'm excited for you. And I hope that for those listening to this conversation, you feel compelled to take a step towards your dream. For those reading the book, you feel the same.
Yes.
Um, I'm so excited for you. Will this be available wherever books are sold?
Yes, it's available wherever books are sold. On my blog, Boots and Biscuits, you can go to Boots and Biscuits/Rosie's Wild Ride, and I've made it easy to kind of find a few of your favorite retailers. But you can call your local bookstore and request it, or just anywhere books are sold, you should be able to get it. And so I know
So
it's been so
excited.
exciting. I know it's like been such a highlight of my life and so fun.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love hear a highlight of your life. I love that. I love that. I love that you had the courage. Talk about courage and bravery to pursue it, because I know the book writing process is not not always
Yeah.
easy, but it's sweet.
When Oakley said, "What if I can?" it really inspired me. I was like, "What if I can do this?" And so
Mm.
I think what was cool about this book, it's a passion project. And so I wanted to write it regardless of ever if it was published or not. So I was going to write the story, and if I was going to send, I didn't even know it was called a manuscript at a time, but I was going to send my story to some smaller publishing houses, and that took unsolicited manuscripts. And I was hoping to hear back, but I heard a few no's and then no responses. So I was like, well, if that doesn't work, I'll self-publish it, because you can do that now. I'll find a local illustrator and I'll just self-publish it on Amazon, and it's just a passion project for me. But where it really took a turn, and I feel like divine intervention, I was at Oakley's gymnastics class, And I met this lady there, and she overheard me on the phone talking to my husband Ty about the book. And I hung up. She said, "Are you a writer?" I said, "No, I just like to write." Let it go. Well, she was there next week too. And she said, "I wasn't going to say anything." She said, "But I feel like since I saw you here again, I have to." She said, "I'm actually an author and I was a literary agent. I worked for 10
Oh,
years in California as a literary agent." She said, "I'd love to help you." So she said, "Just send me all your stuff and I'll introduce you to some agents." So I sent her my story. And she said, she called back. She said, actually, she said, I think she had, at the time, it was 3 kids under 4. She said, "I would love to have a project to work on too." She said, "I'd like to have something, to do outside of momming." She said, "I'd love to represent you." And so she became my friend and literary agent. And she sent my proposal out to a bunch of publishing houses. And we
oh.
ended up accepting the offer from Zonder Kids. And now I have my first book published.
Oh my goodness. It made me when you said that, I'm a little choked up because I think sometimes in the dreaming process, talk about dreaming. I mean, I've experienced it. My followers know this, my friends know this. It could be so discouraging. I mean, whether you're at the beginning looking straight up at the mountain and you're like, how in the world am I going to get all the way up there? Or you get a series of no's and you feel like the dream died. You just really never know. And I was talking to a family member recently that has this big dream and just feels so overwhelmed by all the steps to getting there. And my encouragement to her was to just start talking about it
Mhm.
because we had an investor in a project and it was like the most unlikely person, but because I was talking about it, kind of like this book agent for you, they were like, "Oh wow, whatever it is, but you kind of just like align."
Yeah.
And yeah, I really feel like God is so purposeful with that and loves to surprise us.
Yes.
Right? And, yeah, it's worth talking about, it's worth, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, if you have it on your heart, just do it. Like, I didn't have
Yes.
any expectations. Of course,
Yeah.
I would love to get a book published. That was like the dream. But I
Mm,
was like, if I don't get there, I'll be proud just to self-publish it, just to have this
yeah.
project. And so I think that's such a big part of feeling fulfilled is taking action on your dreams. And there was something I think it was a Harvard Business Review, and I was probably looking up like finding fulfillment again as a mom because you don't have much time to pursue your passions and your interest, especially as a new mom. So I was probably looking that up, and it was called the Progress Principle, and it said one of the key that these researchers at Harvard found a key to people's happiness and fulfillment is making progress every day on one thing that is meaningful to you. And so I was
Wow.
like, that sounds like that sounds true. Every time I've made progress on something that matters to me, set a goal for myself, I feel more fulfilled. And after I had my daughter, it was running. I took up running, and so I could push her in the stroller on the ranch. I could take her for runs. Wasn't taking away my time from her, but I started running races, and so it's like I had these goals I could work towards, and it just felt so fulfilling. And then this book came along, and I think working on the storyline and then going through the whole process of uh, working with the art director and then the marketing directors and making progress on trying to make this a success has just been so rewarding.
Wow. I love this. I love this conversation for whatever season listeners are in
Yeah.
because I think so many of us kind of feel like there's just like I don't know, like dry wells in life in certain
Mhm.
areas, and I think just the permission to step into a dream is a really good boost for a lot of us.
Yeah,
That's
it
really
is, and
sweet.
they do change for me at least, depending on the
Yeah.
season I'm in.
Mm.
I feel like I accomplished all the dreams I wanted to before I got married, and when I became a mom, I accomplished that dream. And it was like you just kind of revise your dreams and what's
Yeah.
meaningful to you at the time. And like you said, once you become a mom, I was like immersed in books, children's books, and I was like reminded how much I loved them. I was like, I would like to write a children's
Aw.
book. And so you never know what kind of dreams will I've always loved writing, but I never thought about writing a children's book until I became a mom. So you never know what stage and season of life you're in that'll bring like out a new passion or new dream.
Wow,
Yeah.
so good, and I'm still, like, recovering from getting choked up, but
Oh,
I love knowing that that agent kind of overheard a conversation, and it didn't necessarily all make sense, it wasn't wrapped together with a perfect bow. I think a lot of us are kinda type A like me and like to have everything figured out, and if you have a dream, but it doesn't seem to make sense just yet, that's okay, just wait, right?
yeah, yes,
You
just
never
keep
know.
pushing it. And I feel like God aligned everything at the time it needed to happen. And you
Yeah.
just never know. what each day's going to bring and who you're going to meet and opportunity that's going to be there.
So good.
Yeah.
So, so sweet.
Yeah.
Goodness. Well, I want to revisit talking about kind of like preserving the ranching and farm industry. But actually, I would love some kind of like clarification here because I don't know. So we're talking about ranching and then also farms. So what are the main differences there? Because I think a lot of people
Yeah.
like me don't know.
Yeah, so farming, I would say, is more crop based. You're raising corn, soybeans, wheat, just you're kind of farming the land. And then ranching, I feel like, is more involved with animals. You can have cattle ranches, sheep, goats, all kind of different types of animals that you can ranch. And so there's a little bit of farming involved with ranching. You have to, we plant our grass seed and then grow our hay and harvest that to feed our animals throughout the winter or if we're having a bad drought. But that's kind of the easy way to describe the difference in a farm and a ranch.
Okay. Okay. I love it. Well, like you said, there is a drastic decline happening in the amount that are in the US right now. So, talk to us a little bit about, I guess, why it matters to kind of be aware of this and to advocate for farmers and ranchers in the US.
Yeah, it is just a industry that's on the decline, and I think one because it's really expensive to do, and it's your profit is so like cyclical, it's undetermined, and a lot of it you're at the mercy of the weather, and what happens with the weather and the market, so supply and demand. And so it's just a hard industry to make a living in. A lot of people maybe will do it as a second form of income. They'll have a job and then ranch, as a second, or have like some cattle or something for a second way to earn income. And so that's kind of what my husband did. He cowboyed, rodeoed, and then he co-founded the Professional Bull Riders organization, the sport. He was a co-founder of the PBR, and then he bought this ranch while he was rodeoing, and then he kept making payments on it through his rodeo career and then the PBR career. And so now we keep the cattle because the cattle help take care of the land. It'd be a hard way to make a living, but it's just such a special life. And I think the best way that people could support farms and ranches is supporting your local farmers and ranchers. So when you go to the grocery store, try to find a local product, try to buy it from your local dairy, go to the farmers markets and support, buy the fresh homegrown vegetables and fruits. Anytime you can buy local, I think is the best way to support farmers and ranchers. And then I think a misconception people maybe have about farmers or ranchers is that we maybe don't care about the environment, our land, or our animal welfare, because it is such a strange dynamic to be an animal lover, yet we are omnivores, and we're producing beef to feed the nation. And so it is a strange dynamic you have to kind of cope with as being a farmer or rancher, and you have to get comfortable with animals that are companion animals and animals that'll be used for meat. But a big thing, I feel like farmers and ranchers are the biggest stewards of the land there could be. If you don't take care of the land, it's not going to take care of you. And the better you take care of your land, the better quality your animals are going to be, and the less stress they're going to have in their life, and they're going to produce better. And so I just think like educating yourself if you can, trying to educate yourself on the ranching and farming life would be very beneficial for all the farmers and ranchers that are out there now.
Hmm. Wow. Just this year, for the first time, I was really upset that summer was coming to a close. And here, in New England, I
Yeah.
feel like when summer ends, winter starts. And so, kind
Yes.
of grieving that a little bit. And so, I made a point to go to every farmer's market I could, like
Mhm.
every week until the season ends here, which is around October. And I loved it. So, they're not quite closed for the season yet. But I told my husband, I was like, how come we haven't done this sooner? I loved getting to know all the local farmers. And obviously, the quality of everything we were getting was so much better than the grocery store. And so that's a really sweet and just like practical way that we can support
Yes,
farmers. So I
yes.
loved that. I love that
Like,
tip.
you know where your food's coming from and you know who
Mhm.
raised it. It's cool to
Mhm.
go to those types of things.
Absolutely. Goodness. Well, we end each of our conversations with the same three questions, and I would love to hear your answers to them as well. The first is something you have eaten recently and loved.
Um, I made my mom's chicken pot pie the other night, and it is just the best ever. You can't beat it. I put the recipe up on my blog, Boots and Biscuits, but I love chicken pot pie. It's such a comfort food, and
Mhm.
um, it's one of my favorite things.
I haven't had it in forever. That's
Yeah,
good.
it's
That's a good reminder.
such a family favorite too.
Growing up, there was a restaurant locally. I'm gonna have to ask my mom about it because it's not in business anymore. They had these giant teddy bears, which was so random, and you would go I think they only made chicken pot pie. Isn't that crazy?
Oh,
I think so, and as a kid, I loved it because they would, like you would sit on the lap of this giant teddy bear. It sounds kinda creepy, but
that'd be so fun as a kid.
it was so
But
fun, and I loved it, but
delicious.
I know.
Yes.
Okay, a gathering you attended that made you feel a strong sense of belonging, and if you could pinpoint it, what it was that made you feel that way.
Um, for as far as like gatherings, I always feel like I belong the most when we're just doing like a get together with our family and friends,
Mhm.
going over for a barbecue or a time with friends. But as far as like a bigger gathering, I got into running after my daughter was born, and I think the running community is just an incredible place. So my last race I ran a half marathon in October of last year. In Texas, called the Marathon to Marathon, and just being there, I feel like you just have such a connection with other runners. I feel like you put in so much hard work to get there. It's such a demanding, grueling sport, and you can just kind of relate to each other of that time you've invested and the determination you're putting in. And when you're running out there running, against these other racers, you just feel such a sense of community and
Wow.
like you belong, yeah, and belong there, and you just kind of can feed off of each other's energy, and the running community really is special.
That's really sweet. I've always, like, dreamed of being a runner. I haven't really dabbled in it much, so
I did the
one day
same thing, and then I had a daughter. I was like, I have to do something for exercise. I'll push her in the stroller on the ranch roads, and
oh
that's
my
how
god.
it started.
Well, I admire that, and maybe in a few years, I'll be running with you. We'll see.
Yes. I ran one marathon like 2 years ago. I've only run one. That was a lot, but I'm glad I did one because that was kind of like always a dream. Oh, I'd like to run a marathon. Kind of a bucket list item for a lot of people. But I did it. It was awesome. But I'm glad I only want to do one.
Good for you. My
Yeah.
goodness. Well, last but not least, I feel like you'll have a fun answer to this. Something you've discovered recently that you think everyone should know about, a Netflix purchase, Amazon Netflix show, Amazon purchase, or anything random like that.
Yeah. Have you seen the documentary Torn?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
I know. We were flying somewhere and it was on the airplane, one of the ones you can select. It's a Nat Geo, National
Mm,
Geographic documentary. It
okay.
is one of the best shows I have ever seen. It
Wow.
is so powerful and deeply moving and inspiring. So it's the story of mountaineer Alex Lowe. He was one of the world's best mountain climbers, and he died in an avalanche when he was climbing or trying to ski like the north side of the in the Tibetan Himalayas. He died. And he had a family. He had a wife and I believe 3 kids. Maybe the oldest was like 11.
Wow.
Well, 17 years later, they discovered his body of him and his cameraman. And they were able to recover it. Well, his son, who was 11 at the time, is the director for this documentary. So it's like his first big documentary picture, and he's the director.
Hmm.
And so it's the son is sitting there with it, interviewing his mom and his brothers, and then his stepdad is Conrad Anker, who was his dad's best friend and climbing partner, and married his mom after his dad died.
Wow.
Yes, so it's just, I mean, and the stories, the premises is like they're trying to come to terms with their father's struggle with being. He was truly torn between mountain climbing that he loved and his family. You
Wow.
know, he didn't stop climbing, putting himself in these dangerous situations even after he had the family. And it's just kind of the family coming to terms with it, and to see his son interview his mom, it's just a
Wow.
really unique story, and it's a story about like life and loss and loving again. And it's just, I don't know, I think maybe because my husband rode bulls, something that's also super dangerous, you really try to get in the mind in these extreme athletes and people that have this passion of such dangerous sports. And it was just an incredible documentary. So I was like telling everybody about it.
I will see if I can attach that. I'm sure I can in the show notes somehow. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you shared that with us. I haven't heard about that. And we're getting ready for a flight, so
Yeah.
maybe I'll watch it on the plane. I'm still in that, like, not a lot of sleep postpartum kind of season, and so I cry very easily these days, but
I still do that too, but I just miss like 1 hour of sleep. It's like I'm I guess I'm just like in this constant barely keeping up with my sleep. And it's like if I just miss a little bit, being a mom is so no one prepares you for how challenging mentally and
yeah.
physically and how draining it is, but how like amazing and rewarding it is too. That first year, the first month was the hardest month of my life. The
Yes.
first year was the second hardest time of my life, and then it starts slowly getting, a bit easier and better and, not so demanding, but that I'm telling you, it is it's like something that's, more demanding. You think you know tired before you have a kid, and you're like, "Nope,
Yeah.
this is what tired is."
I was telling my husband Colby, I was like, "I think for baby showers that I go to from now on, I just wanna write an honest letter, lovingly,
Yeah,
not to be, like, dramatic or anything, but just to,
no,
like, help prepare my friends better because
no.
it's so celebratory, and I love all the cute outfits and all of that, but I think there are some things that aren't talked about that should be,
No,
right?
no, and they're not. And I
Yeah,
think people just I don't know if they don't wanna be negative or
yeah.
don't wanna seem ungrateful for the opportunity to be a mom, but people don't talk about
No.
the being in the trenches of motherhood and how, lonely it can be, and one thing I developed that I've never had before was anxiety when she was a baby. Like,
Yeah,
I would lay her down and I was so scared she was gonna suffocate. I was,
yeah,
like, so scared she's not gonna breathe. And so finally, when she sleeps past her 2 hours, then wake up, I'm like, "Why is she sleeping this long?" And
yeah,
everything is just you just ow, it's like the mental draining of it is so hard because you're just worried about them and you love this thing more than you've ever loved anything in your whole life. And it's like you would die for them. But it's like just takes away like all your energy too. So I know I
totally.
feel the same way. It's like you don't want to sound negative or like ungrateful. So maybe that's why people don't talk about it, I guess, because it's
Yeah.
just don't want to say anything bad about it because it's the most wonderful thing in the world, but it's so challenging too. But anything that's challenging, that's always the things that are the most worthwhile.
Yeah, it's so real. Goodness, now I wanna have a separate conversation about this. Maybe we will.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, oh goodness. Well, thank you so much, Paige, for coming on. I feel like you bring such a peace and a joy with you. You're so radiant and everything that you're talking about, so thank you for sharing that with us, and I know that it's gonna come through in this book. So excited to just get this into people's homes for everyone that are gonna read it, whether it's the moms and dads and caregivers flipping through it when their kids are sleeping or whether they're reading it during book time. I'm just so excited to get this into people's homes.
Thank you. Me too. I'm so
Yeah.
honored. Like it feels so special because it's not just a book. It's like it's our life.
Yeah.
To have this in people's on their bookshelves, reading it to their kids is so like it's so honoring. So I feel so special. So grateful for the support I've already received. And there's a fun activity kit too on my blog, Boots and Biscuits, that you can print out for your child. And it'd be fun to read them the book. Oakley's already done this one, but then you can go through and do the activities that go along with it. And so that's kind of something fun to keep your kid entertained and engaged. Maybe if you need a little bit of mom time.
Absolutely. Well, celebrating the birth of the well, not the birth of a dream, the fulfillment of this dream
Oh,
with you, and I hope that that's inspiring to everyone listening today.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, guys, be sure to go follow Paige, get your own copy of the book, and we will see you back here next week.